So good morning, everyone. We're going to start, and I usually move through presentations, but I have to stay here because of the live audience, so I'll do my best. And welcome to everyone there online. So today, we're going to talk about money. And, well, for those who don't know me, my name is Cristina. I'm one of the secondary counselors. And before anything, I'd like to I'd like to start, I hope, yes. I'd like to start by saying that parents here, all of us, we just want a good university for our child. I am included in that. However, universities are expensive. And we can have a whole session about what is a good university and what is not. But for this purpose, we're just gonna say that it's a lot of money. Depending on where your child goes, it's less or more, and we're gonna talk about that. Throughout the presentation, I want you to keep in mind, all of us, about a couple things. One is what we can afford as parents versus what we really want our children to go to. And the other, and we're going to spend a little bit of time in our tables, is the value of education. If you were here the last coffee meeting, I talked a little bit about the value of education versus the cost of attendance. So for example, they say that overall, 1 year of university costs $50,000, right? That's not unusual. So what is that your child gets for that much money? Do they get some secret books just for that university? Do they get wonderful meals? Do they get internships? What is that you get? And to decide what is the value, that is very individual. So we all need to think, what is really the value of education? So next, we're gonna do a small activity. And at your table, this is what I want you to discuss. So if you can group a little bit, thank you. First question, how much money do you think a college education is worth? Not how much does it cost. How much is worth to you? Is it 10,000? Is it 20? 80,000? What is worth for you? And how do you arrive at that answer? And the third question, what other value does college have besides the monetary benefit? Okay? So we're gonna have about 5 minutes, then we're gonna discuss all together. So, thank you. Let's come back. All right, so can anyone share how much do you think is worth it? Anyone? There's no wrong answer, really. Yeah.
We have a really hard time answering this question. We kind of landed in the middle of difficult. This was a difficult question to answer because there's so much that goes into what the value of an education is. So we had some high numbers, we had some lower numbers, so we settled in the middle at $25,000 US per year.
And can you tell us a little bit how did you guys arrive to that?
Well, it kind of came down to the education is the value that the professors are giving in terms of the education degree that they'll get at the end, but then beyond that, it's also the community and the networks that they make and the internships that they might get. And so it was a really, really difficult question to answer. So it kind of went from 10,000 US all the way up to 65,000 US per year, but really there's no right answer, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Someone else? Anyone else? Yeah.
as everyone said, that it's difficult to arrive to how much, because there are a lot of colleges where they don't even take any fees, as very mere fees. There are colleges that charges $100,000.
Yeah.
So you can't arrive. So when you want to arrive, what do you pay a fees in the school now? So school is more attentive to the students than the college. College is more open. So when you are affordable to pay a $20,000 to $25,000 at this present school, that could be an arriving value, because you are already paying those fees to make your son learn,
Yeah.
or a daughter learn. So you can be affordable to that level. That's $25,000.
Yeah, that's right. And what other value college has besides monetary? Anyone? Yeah?
I think we have to look at the friends you made in college, the networks you can build for your life, your professors,
Yep.
depending on which field you're in, they could be really helpful for you throughout your whole career. And sometimes it's just, the emotional connections you make with friends.
100%, yes. And we now know that having a mentor during your university years is crucial for success, right? So it doesn't matter as a professor that is doing research, as someone at the university that is going to be a mentor for your child. So yes, it's really hard to put a value, how much it's worth, right? But I think, and the purpose of this activity is to just make us all think what is really important to us when it comes to paying for university. As someone mentioned, it's internships, it's co-op, it's opportunities, it's what is that you think individually is worth the money. I think I mentioned this last time. Some families, even though money is not an issue, they decide that they will not pay for university. That's fine too, because that's what they believe, right? So I think it's just for all of us to kind of think a little bit, including me, because I have two children in university now, how much is worth for each of us. And we're going to talk a little more about this. Another concept that I want us to just think about today is financial safety university. What does that mean? I think that all of us should have at least one university that we can afford without any compromise of anything. On top of that, that your child wants to go, because there's no point to have one that your child doesn't want to go, and that your child has a very good chance to be admitted. And I think that for our sake, for our mental peace, we all should have at least one. More? Fantastic, but at least one of those. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna talk, I'm gonna show you some amounts of money from different parts of the world, but I wanna say a few things first. First disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? That's number one. And all the amounts that you're gonna see are just approximates, right? But they're not too far off. Might be a couple thousand.
Just to comment on the KIS line, if you can increase the volume for people online.
Thank you. And we chose countries and universities that our students tend to apply to. So of course, there are all kinds of universities in different countries, but for this purpose, we chose universities and countries that our students apply the most. And of course, these amounts are gonna change depending on lifestyle, right? And my personal experience as a mother is that regardless of how much you plan extra. Because I want to tell you, my oldest daughter was hit by a car. She's fine. But she was hit by a car, ran a red light, and here we go. She had health insurance, but she needed extra physiotherapy. There you go. Clothes, trips, name it. It's always more. So plan at least, I said 20% more, but I'll leave it up to you. Okay, so let's start. So in the UK, one university that our students really, really like, and they apply to the University of Manchester. I want to make a big distinction because even though your child has a UK passport, doesn't mean that they're going to get home fees. Let me explain to you. The universities have the autonomy to challenge that. So you have students here at KIS that they have a UK passport, they have lived here maybe all their life or half, or doesn't matter. They apply, and the university gives them an offer based on international fees. If you challenge that offer, you might lose it. And you say, how is that possible? Well, I don't know what to tell you. It is. It happens all the time. Some universities, no problem. Some other universities, you have to kind of appeal a little bit. They will ask for all kinds of information in order for you to get home fees. And home fees means cheaper, right? So for home fees, students pay £9,250. This is all per year, all per year. Accommodations, well, that's when things get a little, it could be catered halls, it could be you have family there and they can live with someone, or a house or apartment. But overall, 22,000 is pretty accurate, give and take a little bit. For international students, it's more, right? Obviously. Now, for the University of Manchester particularly, they have a distinction in fees. So the 32,000 that you see there is because I chose the £19,000 that is for the average course. You always have the direct fees, which is tuition, room and board, and the indirect ones, which all the extra you can imagine, from health insurance, home insurance, books, all kinds of things that they charge for. Now, if your child chooses to study a degree that has a study abroad, or what is called year in industry, the extra fees. So those are the things that I tell you, plan ahead, because they add up in the end. Next. Yeah.
Can you give us a little idea of rationale behind why our students apply to this university as opposed to
About this university,
everyone?
they like it.
Why?
Well, that's a good question.
Like University of London instead of University of...
Well, one thing that happens in the schools that I have seen all the time is a little, and now I'm seeing it here, I'm thinking, oh, it's kind of like a phenomenon where students tend to apply to the same universities. Why? Because they hear about it. They hear, my friend is applying here, and it's just a natural thing, right? So why University of Manchester is a really good university. The city, well, I'll leave that to you. But they just like it. It's good education. There's plenty of others applying, so they might have someone with them. Yeah. Now, for those of you thinking about the US as a destination for your child, we chose University of Washington because, again, it's popular among our students, really good education, West Coast, pretty laid back, not so good of weather, but okay, it's okay. And I chose it because it's a public university. And then I'm gonna also show you private. So public university in the US, really good one. Also distinction between resident and non-resident. Now, do we have any US passport holders, because this is all by passport. So maybe some are home. Having a property in the US, in the state, paying taxes does not guarantee you that you're a resident. Okay, so let me give you an example. My kids were born in Oregon. We have properties in Oregon. We pay taxes in Oregon, and they are not resident when it comes to university. Why? Because they make those rules, right? What do they have to do to become a resident? For my particular case, they have to stay there for a whole year or show evidence that they have been there, whether it's they work and they have paychecks. It doesn't matter. They have to show and prove that they've been there for a year. Sometimes you can appeal. And I have seen students being successful with that. But, and it is very different from different states. It's not the same for all states. I'm just giving you my example, right? So you have to look into if you're considering that. Sorry, you had a question. Oh, very, very, very different. Yeah, I'm just giving that example. Versus non-resident, which is international, or different state in the US. The tuition, you see the jump, right? It's huge. So in the end, it's double, pretty much. If we go to the next one, it's going to be a private university, right? And private university does not really differentiate between resident and not resident. It's the same price. And for this particular one, if you Google it, it's probably like 78,000, something like that, but it comes more around 80,000 per year. Now, we're going to talk about discounts and scholarships and all that in a little bit, but I just wanted to show you the real cost per year. And we also chose the Netherlands because it's a popular destination for students, for many people. And we chose the University of Amsterdam. My son goes to the University of Amsterdam, so I can tell you a little bit more about that. Now, distinction between EU resident and non-EU. EU residents, it's around 2,000, but there's some discounts, so tell you a little bit about it. Versus non-EU, but that's kind of the minimum. We can go up to 18,000 depending on the course, right? So this is just an average. So this is depending on accommodations, depending on Amsterdam is an expensive city versus some maybe other city in the Netherlands. So this is around the cost. I think my two children are in the Netherlands. One is in the University of Amsterdam. And probably they pay around, I pay. I pay about 20,000 per year. That doesn't include trips home or where we are or all kinds of vacations or anything like that. So you have to add that up, right? Yeah, next. So how do we pay for university apart from the obvious, our money, right? Okay. So I think it's pretty obvious that by passport, right? If you hold a UK passport, a Dutch passport, a US passport, you may have more options that you are international. I think it's just logical. For the UK, and this is just, again, general terms, there's some bursaries. They're usually based on income. They're very little. Their amounts are small. Cover books. It can cover some part of the tuition. And they all are based on income. So I'm going to venture and say that maybe the majority of us will not qualify for bursaries, I think, or loans. typical loans, like any other loan, through the student finance. If you're an international student and want to go to the UK, there are specific scholarships from different, depending on your passport. So let's say, if you're from India, you have an Indian passport, you might have some, and a girl, you might have some scholarship just because of that. And you can prove that you need the money, obviously, right? So depending on the country, you might find that you could qualify for some scholarships. Not they're gonna give it to you, but at least you can qualify and apply. For people in the Netherlands, studying in the Netherlands, there are different categories, right? You have the EU passport holder, and you get discounts. Let me tell you what that means. For my son, the tuition was $2,000, and he got a discount for the first year from being EU passport holder to $1,000. But because of COVID, I pay 500 euros for the entire year in tuition, because they're EU passport holders, my kids. Sometimes, if you are from other countries in Europe where higher education is subsidized, you can apply those funds to pay for a place like the Netherlands. I have a student this year doing that. Now, if you're Dutch, there's other kinds of loans that you can, any Dutch person here? Well, or maybe in the audience at home. Something called Duo, and those are loans that they need to be repaid. And they also have discounts. If you are international, that means non-EU, then there's some scholarships, but don't expect a lot. It's just a little bit. Now, going to the US to study is a little more complicated, right? So if you consider domestic, that's how it's called. I already talked about resident and not resident. You can apply for FAFSA, which is federal aid, and something called CSS profile. Now, that's only for domestic. That means US passport holders. FAFSA is also based on income. So I have seen students applying and getting some $1,000, but not that many, because it's based on income. When you file the CSS profile, you declare all your assets. And that's where people get, oh, wait a second, I don't want to declare my assets to anyone. So something that you need to discuss with your child as a family. There are scholarships and some discounts. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So let's say you saw the Boston University 80,000. Most students, if not all, will get some kind of discount. Because the child does not apply to it. So it's not really a scholarship, although it comes back as a scholarship, but you don't apply. You just are given some money off, some percentage off. So that's what we call a discount. And it could be $20,000 per year. And I'm going to give you two examples of students this year who got some scholarships, discounts, really. Now, no, just wait. Now, I have a link there for domestic. It has all universities that wanted to participate in the research, for undergraduate, for need-based, and merit. But this is only for passport holders, US passport holders. Now, for international students, there are many scholarships that you apply to, or discounts that they just give it because you apply to university, usually private universities. And there's a link there. I don't know if the presentation can be sent to parents, but there's a link there. Sometimes you can get federal aid, but they are quite, you have to belong to a certain group. Is it possible to click on the link? You had a question?
Yeah, just maybe you will talk about that later, but about the discount, the difference between scholarship and discount. Discount, is it linked to a negotiation? Is it linked to your student profile?
No, the student applies and you get it. The student applies to the university, and it comes back, the offer, with a discount. But the scholarship, you apply for the scholarship.
But for the discount, how can I know if it's relevant, if it's fair, if it's the same for everyone? It's random.
It's random. That's a good question. Maybe compare with someone that applied to the same university. But it usually, and in the link, that's the other link, but in the other link, it tells you the percentage of students who gets it and the amounts approximate.
I just want to kind of provide an answer for you. In the college I attended, the discounts were provided as sort of a merit-based assessment. It depends on how much they want you to go. So if you're a student that matches the profile that they want, they might throw that in as an incentive for you to go there. But yeah, so it depends on the school. It's very different. The U.S. is like 50 different countries, and within each state, it's different between public and private.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So there's a lot of research to do. Sometimes it's merit, sometimes not. And in the next slide, I'll explain a little bit more about need-based and need-aware too. So if you're not a U.S. citizen, can you get federal aid? Yes, but you have to belong to some of those groups. So maybe it's worth to take a look. Yeah, thank you. So next. Okay. I want to also just spend a minute to talk about need blind and need aware. If your child is applying to the U.S. universities, you might have to pay attention to this. Why? Because universities, when they say need blind, that means that your ability to pay has nothing to do with being admitted or not. But if they're need aware, it might have. So if the university is need aware and you say, I need money, that could, not necessarily will, but could affect admission. Okay? Next. And also, I wanted to spend a minute talking about the difference between really needing money versus wanting the money. We all want money. Well, I do. But it's very different. And from the university's perspective, they really pay attention to that. You can want all you want, but they're going to make a decision on how much you need based on income, based on all the assets you have. I have had in the past students that they have said, wait a second, you declared that you own a house, sell it. Why are you asking me for money if you have assets, right? So how they calculate the financial need is the total cost of attendance, which usually doesn't include a lot of extras, but let's say that they have a cost of attendance of $50,000, and they have to subtract what is called expected family contribution. They're gonna make a decision based on what you all provided in terms of financial things. And they're gonna say, and also what are your expenses. So it's not only what you have, but also your expenses. And they're gonna say, you only really need $10,000. So that's what I'm gonna give it to you. But I'm not gonna give it to you just like that, right? What usually comes back is $6,000 in grants, you've qualified, $2,000 in loan, and the rest, you're expected to work 25 hours per week. So that's a very normal financial aid comeback. So I want everyone to know a little bit about this and be prepared. We're going to do what is called a need analysis. So taxes, assets, stock market, name it. Then they'll make a decision. So it's not as simple as, oh, I need so much, and there you are, right? Any questions about that?
Is it the US?
This is the US. This is the US. So when a student says, I want to, because I have a student, and I think it's perfectly fine. They say, oh, I want to go to study in the US, but I need a lot of aid. So we're going to really need to talk about this, because it's not as simple. Yeah.
There are just 2 points I want to make also based on your merit and need-based admissions. It used to be that there were a few colleges, especially private colleges, that were need blind for international
Yes.
students. But after the 2008 crisis, a lot of these colleges, including the one I went to, have decided they don't want to do that for international students. We have to understand that if we're not domestic students, we're viewed as a cash cow for a lot of these private institutions and actually even the public universities. So we are at a disadvantage here from this perspective.
Yeah.
And number two is actually some of these grants from the US are actually considered taxable income for your kid.
Yes.
So you have to be careful what you get. So some
Yeah.
of the grants have to be counted as income and then taxed as income.
Yeah.
And if your kid is in the States and they've lived past 183 days, they are liable for tax.
Yes, so there's so much, and of course, I mean, we can spend hours and hours talking about that, but if someone is interested, I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation about that, because there's so much, it's not as simple as it seems, right? And also, you mentioned about after 2008, but it was a bit of a scandal, too, because some universities that they were need aware, they didn't say that. So, and there was a bit of a scandal, and now they're a lot more open about it. And that's what I want people that are interested to just know about this. Super important. So, I want to show you a couple of examples of what our students in grade 12, what kind of scholarships they received. So, one of my students applied to the UK and got £9,000 a scholarship, a three-year degree. So it's about $3,000 that is only applied to tuition. But the total cost is $15,000. So when you say, oh, well, it's $9,000, that's a lot. But when it comes to it, it's not so much. I mean, it's great, but it's not that's to make our own decisions as a family, right? And another example, $100,000 sounds like a lot of money. But to me, it's a lot of money. And it has to be divided equal into 4 years, 4-year degree in the US. But the cost of attendance is $58,000 only, tuition and room and board. It's a great discount, for sure. But if someone is expecting to get 100%, it's really hard. I have seen it very few times in a lot of years. If you are interested in the scholarships, you have to do a lot of research. And I put the Google there because that's your best friend. I don't know what to say differently. Google it, right? Like I tell the kids a lot of times when, they ask some questions that you just Google it. I do, and I get the answer. And I say, so wait a second. You can really find a piece of clothing that is in some website just by Googling it, but you can't Google this? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, Google is your best friend. You have to do a lot of research if you really depend on scholarships or want to get some scholarships. There are scholarships about everything that you can imagine, but a lot of people ask for them too. So depending on where your child is, if your child is definitely in grade 11, and you're thinking, I like some scholarships, or at least have the opportunity to apply to some scholarships, that's when you do the research right now. It's really, really crucial. But if your child is in grade 6, for example, well, who knows then when they're in grade 11 what's going to happen anyway. But there's scholarships for about absolutely every group that you can imagine. Might not be what you want or the amount that you want, but they're there. Next. Okay. So I said I was not a financial advisor, right? But if your child is younger, my best recommendation to you is to start a fund. Start something for them, right? We did that. And thankfully, we don't have to worry about it now. I have 3 children, and so I can imagine, I don't want to add up all that money, but that's what we did. It worked really well. Now, not all people do that because of many reasons. But you have to be very, very honest with your child about what can you afford or not. Might not be an easy conversation to have, but it's a needed one, especially when the child is older. You have to tell them, this is what we can afford. And you don't have to explain all your finances. You don't have to, you can, but you don't have to. But you have to give them an amount. Let's say, I can afford $30,000 per year. Okay, perfect. And then we know what, and for us it's also really helpful, because when they come to us and say, oh, do you know any good programs in psychology? Yeah, we're like, thousands. Okay. But if I start just throwing names of universities that the family cannot afford, it's a waste of our time, and it just increases anxiety. It's just not good for anyone. Be honest about finances and what you can afford or not with your child. And also, best recommendation, if your child is older, close 11th grade, maybe even 10, create a spending plan with them. Because when they go to university, do you have anyone with kids in university here? Not yet? Okay. So I can tell you that if you don't create a spending plan, it could be endless. Because they always think they need something. Oh, I need to go to this trip. No, you want to go to this trip. You don't need to go to this trip. Oh, I need to get, no, you don't. Because it could be like endless, I'm telling you. So it's a good idea to get a spending plan with them. And unfortunately, I have to say this, you cannot rely on scholarships, because scholarships, they're there, but not everyone gets it. And as I mentioned, we have talked about it, they might get some discounts, but if you are hoping to just everyone to pay for everything, I don't know, sorry, it's just not gonna happen. So we tell students, do not rely on a scholarship. Please have a financial safety university. You must have them. And you have to do a lot of research. I do, and I can help you if you need to. But there's a lot of research, and it's really time-consuming. So you have to do research and document your research, because I see students doing research and they spend hours, and they're like, oh, what was that? Like in that university? And I said, no, you have to document what the research you do. Any questions? Yeah.
How about the index? What index of the Canadian? Thank you.
So how about the cost index of the Canadian university when comparing to the US?
Well, it depends on the university a lot, and it depends if you are, in Canada, they divide, there are three categories. One is a Canadian living in Canada and doing the last few years of schooling there. Then you have the Canadian that is international, because it's not the same. And then you have the international. So depending on the passport, the University of Toronto that is really popular with our students is really expensive for international. I would say at least 60,000, 70,000. It's really expensive. It's really good. Sorry? Canadian. Yeah. So if you have a Canadian passport and maybe you have a younger child and you plan to move there, then it's really affordable. It's very affordable. But also it depends on many things. There are different provinces. Yeah. But as an international, it can be big, but no, I'm talking, University of Toronto is the most expensive, I think. So it's not, there are other ones that they are cheaper. Yeah. Yeah.
There are a couple things I want to comment on.
Yep.
If you're in your 9th, 10th, 11th grade, there are admissions officers who come to Bangkok to do recruiting.
Yep.
Make friends with them, not you, your kids. Don't show up. Your kids show up and make friends with them. Because if they are gregarious with these people, some of them actually will clue you in into scholarships you can apply for, or they will tell you about things that it's harder to find on Google. And one other thing is, if you go to the US, you have the option to work. As international students, I was limited to 20 hours a week, but there are other ways around that. So if I wanted to do work on campus, I can only work 20 hours to stay within the requirements of my visa. That might have changed by now. But what I could do also is to get internships in my field, which was in chemistry. I was able to apply for internships in the winter and the summer breaks. And that comes paid pretty well for kids that age. I got $4,000 for working over a summer for 8 to 10 weeks. And I got an internship once for a semester, sort of semester out of school, and that paid $12,000, which went quite a ways to covering tuition.
Yeah.
So that's something you can think about.
Yeah, about the university reps, if the university rep is also a financial aid person, they may have money to give, right? Because they have a pot. It's not like endless either. So I have talked to university reps, not here because we don't have them now at all. But I have our university reps that just by talking with the student, they take notes, by the way, for sure, and they offer them money when they apply. So when you mention be friends with them, not you, but the students, go to them, ask questions. You don't know when something like that could happen. I think just started to travel some universities, and they're coming here to Bangkok. Unfortunately, it's not the same, but they're always open to talking to students. And we offer some, we have UBC on Wednesday. Now, it was online, obviously. They put a group of students that they were interested or showed interest. So, and they asked for who attended. They keep track. And yeah, we can do a whole session about that because it's super interesting how they do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you think it's important for next summer, if we have the opportunity, to go and visit some university to prepare the year after?
Yes, 100%. Yes, for different reasons. One, if you have the opportunity, of course, but one, because that's how students really make decisions if they want to go or not, because they're there, It's not anymore in what they think it is actual the place. But also you can ask a lot of questions, and that is demonstrated interest, right? So you show interest by visiting. Not everyone visits, right? Nobody goes across the world or to visit. So yes, I really recommend it. If possible, I would say this. I would not send one of my children to a university they haven't visited. That doesn't mean, because we all have different situations. I mean, if you cannot visit, they have virtual tours. If you have, those are a little bit glamorized, but you can talk to students, you can get, you can do a lot of things. But for me, I can tell you as a mother, it was really important that my children visited the university. Do they fit there? Do they think that they can be there for 3 or 4 years? If possible. Yes?
Just to follow up on that question a little bit more, another way to demonstrate interest, given our position as an IB school, is to actually have your kids engage professors at potential universities they are interested in when they're doing their projects, especially when you're coming towards the end of your MYP or your DP. A lot of the professors in the US colleges, in the private universities at least, they rotate through various roles in their administration. So for instance, my advisor in my advisor in biology was actually the admissions dean for several years. So if you actually engaged her following up on a project, so maybe for your CAS essay, or your extended essay, in your DP, and you were working with this professor, and then you applied to that college, they'll put you in good word for you. And that actually puts you heads and shoulders above everybody else, because they know you, they know what you're doing, and you're engaged. And that's part of our advantage here, I think, because we want to be very open in what we're doing with our kids, and you encourage them to go reach out. And these professors, they love talking to high school students. They want to engage with you, and that's a very clear way to show your engagement with that particular school.
And that's not only for US, I have to say. I have students that they have done research. They're older students, right? They're not students in grade 6, but they do research with professors already, but then in high school. And it really, that has always been there. But the last 2 years of pandemic, because they were not able to travel to universities, it really grew, that connection, because you connect with them online anyway, right? And if you have the opportunity to be in a place where you can connect in person, that would be fantastic, but rarely happens. But you can work online. So I tell my students that they need to start thinking, older students in grade 11, of what is something that they can do, want to do. And if they're interested in a particular research project, there are plenty of professors, as you said, that they're interested and they are willing to work with the students. Yeah. Any other questions about money, pain? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. If you want to follow up any of these with me, feel free to send me an email. We can sit down and talk about it. This is so much, and this was just mostly general comments. But if you're interested in a specific country, maybe I didn't mention, just let me know. We can sit down and talk about it for sure. And well, have a good day. All right. Thank you.